Hey team, welcome back to another episode of the Jenn Commandments podcast. I am your host, Jenn Wien. I'm an engineer currently working in Wisconsin. I grew up in the Chicagoland area and I went to college in Michigan. Hey, we have big finals week energy in the house today. I leave I am my friends. She's going to go do a triathlon this weekend. So I will be attending that and supporting her. Um, and then from there, I will depart. She will be watching Dante. And then I will be going to a international trip. I think I told everyone where I was going. I'm going to Malaysia. One of my best friends is getting married. I am so very excited for him. And so, yeah, I will be going to that. If you just heard my air kick on, very sorry for that. I am but a human being, um, um, contributing to the climate crisis. So, anywho, so what are we talking about today? Oh, so because of that, we're going to do some back to back to back episodes, and thus it's finals week. So, I'm going to do sister episodes. So today I'm going to be talking about Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, the movie. And then for the next episode, we're going to talk about the album Eternal Sunshine by Ariana Grande, because as we all know, I'm an Ariana Grande fan. And I figured that wouldn't be a topic that I really have to study for that much because I know that album front to back. So um yeah, we'll do that. And then I think I might want to do one more episode, but it is Tuesday already. So, and I'm leaving for my friends on Saturday, and I still in theory should go get a pedicure. I have to go get my hair done. There's a lot going on. Being a woman is so hard, you know. But it was so fun. Me and the girls, we had a little FaceTime. We had a little group FaceTime last night. We're all going. Me and one of my besties, she and I are going to the wedding together. But our other bestie, she has a work trip, international work trip. So we're all getting to like plan our little outfits and like um, talk about what we want to do, and like I don't know. It's been really fun to explore. So very exciting stuff happening in my world. But before I can do that, it's finals week. So before I can go on my like big fancy vacation and have so much fun with some of the people that I love most in the world, I have to really show up for work, and I need to care, like really make sure I get my shit together for this. um so yeah, the interview that I had initially, so here's what happened this last weekend. So on my way down, the person I was interviewing, they got called into work. And so I was like, no worries. I had plans to see one of my friends. It was her birthday recently, and so I wanted to spend some time with her as well while I was in the area. So I was like, no worries, I can just go to their place, like, and whatever. So basically, by the time they were done with being pulled into work, and they still had to work that night, so it just like it didn't work out time wise. And so what I had ended up doing was I just spent some time with my friend, and then I just drove back up here. And I was like, perfectly, she was going out that night, and like I could have like gone out and then like trudged through an interview that Sunday, but I just was like, I don't know. I'm not really interested. I'm sort of an old lady now, y'all. I can't really kick it like I used to, you know? I think the dog days are over, you know what I mean? But the tea is I've been making a lot of breakthroughs lately, right? So that was my weekend. Not to I took a sharp transition, right? My bad. But I've been making a lot of breakthroughs lately as it relates to like religious trauma, as it relates to my insecurities, as it relates to like just how much my insecurities have led me to act certain ways and blah, 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 blah. Right. And so, and going home, so the friend that I had seen at home is my first love's sister. Hold your judgment, please. And so, and we have recently, and by recent I mean it's been about a year. Like it's been about a year since we reconnected, and I've allowed myself to try to have a relationship with her that doesn't that I don't allow myself to center him in, because that's been an issue for me before. And so that's part of what we're going to be talking about today, right? So we're going to be discussing how difficult that process is of like weighing out whether so like for me, you know, like this person more than anything is somebody who I feel like is family to me, right? And all like, not to air out anything, but like I feel as though we owe it to each other. We've always been literally like like we've argued, we've gone through stints where we haven't liked each other. Like we we've come back and chosen each other time and time again. Um and so I think a big part of my journey this year as it relates to facing insecurities and facing vulnerability and being like, this person could hurt me. And of course it's very difficult, like seeing her and seeing him in her and seeing their mannerisms be the same and like all that stuff. But to me, it is so entirely worth it to like the small suffering that is like nothing compared to how grateful I am to have somebody. And if you hear Dante chewing on his bone while I'm having this like very in-depth conversation, very sorry. um the the like gratitude and like safety that comes from having somebody in my corner, and we both don't come from families that are like, they are supportive, like they're as supportive as they are capable of being supportive, you know. But like it's just very nice to have that sense of familiarity in each other's corner, I think. And so, and it always has been, and whatever shame and guilt and whatever, and like whatever hard conversations that may have needed to happen on either of our sides in order for that to happen, I think it's really beautiful that we try, I guess. I don't know. Anyway, I'm babbling. I've been talking for 10 minutes. I have no idea what I'm talking about. But the tea is like I've had to face a lot of shit in the last year by reintegrating somebody who is somebody who hurt. Like I went through some of the darkest and brightest times of my life alongside this person, and sometimes because of this person, and like same with him, right? um and so in order for me to be able to even have a relationship with somebody adjacent to that is triggering, of course, right? But in my opinion, like, that's it's so worth it to me. And of course that seems messy, and of course that seems complicated, and um it could be worthy of side eyes or whatever. I just think that over the last year, I've with the we've unpacked. I don't really talk about my first love very often on the pod. I allude to him sometimes, but um I just I don't have much to say. Um Out of, like, respect for him and his family. They're in part probably part of the reason why I'm alive. So I can't really, you know. So that's what we're going to be addressing, but that's another. I'm ready to let go of all of that. And I have been ready to let go. Like, and I have largely I've let go of the feelings attached to all of that, but I there's a part of me that still hasn't let go of, like, the memories of all of that, of, like, I don't know, the, like, how transformative those experiences were to who I am, and, like, how truly, like, largely the relationships like that, like, that family took me places. They just included me in their family. And, like, I was always very grateful for that. And I there are specific families she and I got to discuss, like, there have been specific families throughout my life who have just included me as their own, you know and that, like, truly changes your life. As somebody who didn't who sp- I spent a lot of time alone as a child. Like, I was an only child. I wasn't an only child. My brother's 16 years older than me, but when my parents separated, my mom was working two jobs and she was getting her master's degree. And so, God bless her, she was working her ass off to provide for me and her. But I just spent a lot of time alone. So the people who included me into their lives were so very important to me. And so I will never not be grateful for that, you know? And largely it has very little to do with him. And, like, not even in, like, a shady way. It's just like, um and that's part of the reason why all of it hurts so much too, or whatever. Like, things ended up being pretty tumultuous between, like, me and all of the family. And I didn't know. I mean, I knew that it was tumultuous between he and I don't know. I don't give a fuck about that. But um I had always had, like, a very deep respect for everyone in the family, and, like, had found out that that was just, like, wasn't the case, that wasn't reciprocated for some of the, I don't know, it just was like, um it was heartbreaking, like, it's heartbreaking to look up so desperately, like, this family was, like, the one of the very first people I told, like, adult wise, that my dad was abusive, and, like, they believed me. But I was just like, am I ever going to let go of, I don't have feelings for these people anymore. but as I've been coming to terms with the fact that I have attachment issues where I attach myself to something, and like likely it is not even the thing or the I promise this is all relevant to Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. It is like literally all fucking relevant. I attach myself to like an idea of a person, stability, someone like Joel, where I deem them as like stable and can provide me stability. And attach myself to that idea and just like ride that fucking wave, dog. And like, ooh, to get to the root of that, you know? And we are. And we very much are. So that like as I'm repairing my relation, that's one of the big things that I need to repair about my relationship to home. Was part of what I was running away from was that. Part of what I was running away from was my complicated feelings about like romantic intimacy, my complicated feelings about repeating patterns so early in my life, and being ashamed of it, you know, like it's just there's a lot to like as it relates to coming home. The fact that like it is so healing in it of itself to have like the forgiveness, not that I need her forgiveness, but to have like the understanding of like that woman, my first love sister has seen me in some pretty despicable places in life, you know, like and she's always still like, I'm gonna cry. One second. And she's still seen me with like stars in her eyes, you know? And so that's a nice, obviously, sure, it strokes my ego, but it's a good driving point too of like, there are people that like I want to impress positively and not from a place of like shame, you know? I knew I was gonna cry like a lot. Um so okay. So now let's transition into Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind and how it translates into, I think I was ready to receive Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So I was introduced to the movie through Ariana's album. I personally I personally am not a Jim Carrey fan. I know. I know. I boy shit. That's boy shit. I don't give a fuck about a Jim Carrey movie. I really liked this one though. I think Kate Winslet does such a beautiful, excellent like contemplative, complex showcasing of Clementine. I am so very impressed with the way she performed. Poor Dante. Um and yeah, I just wow. So I was introduced to Ariana's album and I knew that, so and then We Can't Be Friends, the music video came out, and I knew that at that moment in time I was not ready to receive We Can't Be Friends because I knew that I was not there yet. I don't think I was done being angry. Um which is just like the cut and dry of it. It was like all of that was happening during the like Gilio stuff too. And so I was really in my like man eater, man hater, but still had to be home shit. And a lot of it I'm pretty sure was like survival. Like I will not survive here if I have to try to like be contemplative and like forgive my first love right now. You expect me to be home in Stager, Illinois and forgive my first love? You got me fucked up. Like, I'm just not fucking doing that, right? Because I had gotten over it, but I hadn't forgiven that motherfucker. I was still so pissed, you know? And like, to a large extent, we're going to get into it. I'm still angry, of course. Um, I'm an angry bitch, you know? But I'm finding the value in working through it now, though, at least. So that's a step in the right direction. So I was introduced to Eternal Sunshine, and I was like, TTT. I can't watch the music video. But I don't know. Somehow it got brought up between my friend and I, and she had told me that she loved Eternal Sunshine of Spotless Mind. I was like, all right, I'm about ready. I knew I was about ready, and I went on HBO Max, and I had just gotten done with seeing her. I had come back up here, and I immediately passed out after I like because I had driven down and up in the same day, so I had immediately passed out. But that next morning, I woke up early, and I that was the first thing I watched because I don't know, just spending that time with her was it's so liberating in a lot of ways. It's somebody I can be my complete self around who knows me to, and I can be my complete self around. It's like, it's, I don't know. I just am very grateful, but I knew it was going to be hard to watch, but I didn't know how hopeful it was going to end. Like, I was just going to be like, okay, and the ending is that shit is erased and that's it. The idea that they find each other again and whatever is very sweet. And like, I think I finally understood. And I'm starting to understand what I have a few questions still, and we're going to talk about them. But I'm starting to understand what healthy adult relationships look like, what all of that entails, unpacking why I couldn't, like, how much of that childhood shit, that first love shit, that childhood, like, I had been in a number of very scary situations as a kid as it relates to like romantic shit, you know? And so like unlearning that scare mindset, just like unlearning all of that defensiveness and like whatever, and just being open to the vulnerability of it anyway has been, it's really hard, but the movie was really helpful. Let's, now that I've done 30 minutes worth of intro, let's let's get into the analysis. So the way that I'm going to structure this is I'm going to talk about Clementine first, and then I'll talk about Joel, and then I'll talk about some like overall themes that I have. So Clementine, all right. So I don't know how much y'all are familiar with Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind. So the T is here's a general overview, actually. So let's start with that. So the general overview is Jim Carrey wakes up and homeboy has no idea how his car is fucked up, and he goes to the train station, and then he finds himself going to Montauk, and you don't know why, and then he finds this bitch Clementine, and Clementine is dope, real dope girl. But you find out through, I don't know, some cutscenes and shit. Like, the structure of the movie is very abstract. So like, you are, the whole thing is filmed in like, with, it feels like a handheld camera, so I think that it's very unstable, so that adds a lot of like dreamlikeness to the movie overall. And I think that was on purpose. I watched a couple of analyses about it on YouTube. And the director was really really dope. He like really cared about the artistry of it, so he did like basically all practical effects. He did like as little CGI as possible. And so like in the background when there are like dream sequences, so like we find out that Jim Carrey. Okay, no, we find out that Kate Winslet um hired some like shady ass fucking doctor to erase her memories of Jim Carrey's character completely. And so Kate Winslet is Clementine and Jim Carrey is Joel. Okay. Kate Winslet, Clementine, she's manic pixie fairy dream girl, whatever you want to call her. Okay. She's that alt bitch. She's a little fucking crazy, but she got a heart of gold, right? And then Joel's stick in the mud, boring ass bitch, right? Um, what else is new, right? And so Clementine is like, man, fuck you, I'm erasing your shit. And so she does. And like that makes Joel so upset that Joel's like, I'm gonna do that shit too. So we're taken through the whole process through Joel's perspective of him getting his memories wiped. That's the whole tea about the whole shit. Okay, that's the whole premise of the movie, and it's pretty structured, pretty linearly, just like that. So let's get into Clementine. I'm already tired. We're only 32 minutes in. So I talked about emotional shit already. Damn. Okay. So we talked about this manic pixie dream girl, right? So homegirl is clearly dealing with a lot of insecure, like she's dealing with a lot. And she's impulsive and she says it. She's One thing about Clementine is she is very honest about who she is. She is very self-aware. She knows that she's impulsive. She knows that she can have a temper. She's just very she's no bullshit. She's going to tell you what it is, that type of shit, right? And I think one of the big themes of the movie is that like her complexity is void because her role is to be the muse, right? So like we see that Clementine is this very troubled young woman, right? Like we never really get to know why she's troubled. Like part of the like and we don't like because it's told from Joel's perspective and Joel doesn't really be asking questions other than the surface level shit that she be saying. We don't really know why. And like he doesn't really ever ask more, you know? And like the reason why is like her purpose according to the film and the themes and whatever is to inspire but not be understood. She can be described as brightly dyed hair, erratic behavior, free spiritedness, emotionally provocative, and breaks Joel out of his shell. So a big thing and a big like character trait that I would peg Clementine as is like homegirl. She knows how to bring something out of Joel, whether it be positive or not. But the fact that she makes Joel feel anything is enough for him. And that's it's the movie's so interesting because in a lot of ways you're like this is hell like it's not healthy. It's very unhealthy. Like the way that they communicate in the memories is terrible. You're like, no, those people shouldn't be together. The desire, the pull, the connection, it's very beautiful, and it's very like, I have a lot of questions. I'm gonna ask my therapist a lot of questions, but well, um, but she breaks Joel out of his shell. So one of her favorite, or one of my favorite quotes that she says, and she says it twice. And one thing that I really, really admire about the movie is what I think that it's genius about it is there are times where you see events happen in real time, and then there are times where you see events happen in from Joel's perspective, and they're different because memories are not objective, right? And so one thing I really, really admired about Joel, there was Joel had some redeeming quality. They both had redeeming qualities. That's part of why the movie works so well, is because both of these humans are just doing human shit, right? It is a very real portrayal of what love is. And like, if you want, so some of the questions I have, I guess, are like, is it possible, is it ever going to be possible to have a relationship that doesn't include abuse? Cuz like, in my opinion, some of their behavior is abusive. Is all abusive behavior abuse? Yes, right? So with me trying to learn what gray areas are as it relates to like morality, cuz I have been operating because I've been gaslit so much of my life. Right? Of like very crazy behaviors happening around me, and me being like, these are crazy behaviors, and everyone around me being like, no they're not, and me being like, you're lying, right? And so because of that, I think I view the world so black and white, and I'm working through that right now. So in a lot of ways, I just scared Dante a little bit. In a lot of ways, the thesis statement that I feel for some of this is like abuse is acceptable, even though I know that that's not the maybe I'm just being stubborn also. Anyway, the best quote by Clementine's character is, too many guys think I'm a concept, or I complete them, or I'm going to make them alive. But I'm just a fucked up girl who's looking for my own peace of mind. Don't assign me yours. 8. 8 down. Because this movie, I wrote in my notes here, this movie really highlights the lonely boy X wants to feel stability girl relationship. Like, and that is such a like toxic codependent dynamic of like so much bad shit maybe happening in this boy's life, or this boy doesn't feel seen at home, or this boy doesn't get enough attention, or blah 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 blah, right? Whatever deficiencies that this young boy is feeling in his life, and he finds somebody who will do anything for his validation because she just wants the stability of him, you know? You start that inner lock, bitch. That shit's locked in for like a minute, you know? Um and it's fucking very unfortunate, dude. Like, oh, it's really rough. You both want the same things, but you're putting all the expectations for it to happen on the other person. And that's really the big one of it, right? Is like, you want stability, and you want kindness, and you want love. Y'all all want the same shit, right? But the ways that you're trying to go about it are completely different, and y'all ain't really communicating the expectations of one another, right? And so it's rough out here, you know. Um and I my next note for Clementine is that no one should be anyone's muse, right? So like in a lot of ways Clementine was Joel's muse. Like we see within his like journal or his like sketchbook. I'm like, what is that fucking word? We see within his sketchbook that the only time that he ever even uses color within that sketchbook is when she's involved. It is implied that like she is the light, the absolute world to Joel. The only thing that is bringing any sort of excitement or whatever to his day, that is putting all of the emotional weight of the world, of his emotional stability world or whatever, on her, you know. um and it's rough, dog. It's real rough. I ain't got shit to say else about it, for real. So for my notes for the no one should be amused, I wrote Joel sees Clementine as his opposite, vibrant, while he's dull, daring to his anxious. He's in love with how she makes him feel, not her as a full person. You know, let's be real about it. She makes him feel better about his weird, shitty life, you know? And that, like, same and vice versa, you know, like completely. Men romanticize a woman's spontaneity and openness, but feel threatened by her intensity or independence. So the thing, like, the thing that really bothers me about dating, and not just where I'm not, none of not everything I say in this episode specifically is in relation to my first love. This is just like a I think this movie is a really great commentary about postmodern dating at large. And it really talks about some of the key issues that I think is still relevant today. I think the manic pixie dream girl is just sort of the standard modern woman now. And we'll talk about that. I have like a feminist perspective as it relates to Clementine, and like a feminist perspective as it relates to Joel, and just like what think it also is symbolism for. But like, that was a weird cough, sorry. But like, I just think, I don't know. I think that's really interesting. Or what was I talking about? I hate that men want you to like text them all day and then hang out and like want to act in like y'all want to play house and then be like, but it's not serious though. What do you mean? We're literally doing all the things that we would be doing if we were like dating right now. What the fuck are you talking? And so like when I wrote down the like threatened by intensity, that's what I sort of mean too, of like, be fucking for real. You know what I mean? And I think that's a when we talk about the Joel side of things, it's a fear of vulnerability, I think, more than anything. I don't think it's really a reflection of the intensity itself. It's a reflection of the uncomfortability with somebody being comfortable enough with themselves to showcase their feelings, you know. So um yeah. And then I also wrote men's expectations of women saving them from their own head, and then I wrote question mark question mark. This is a big one that I've dealt with for basically every relationship I've ever been in, of like, men expect you to be their piece for real, and I'm like, you're not mine. So why would you expect me to be yours? Like, y'all, one time, I'm going to do a whole episode of like things men have said to me or things men have said about me. Um, but like I've had a man literally like lecture me because I didn't make him a grocery list. Like, you are a grown man. You know what I mean? Grow the fuck up, you know? Um, it's not my job to save you. I've had exes' parents reach out to me and be like, you know, homeboy's not doing well. The fuck's that got to do with me, baby? He didn't want my ass. I don't want him neither. The next bullet point I wrote was Clementine is not put together, but she doesn't try to be. She drinks too much, lashes out when scared, and expresses emotions messily. She's not glorified, but she shows humanity. What I really love is she's presented as a whole person, and you see her struggle. She's never truly understood by her partner because she's so trapped in Joel's perspective of her, literally and physically. So, what I think is really cool about, not cool, but I think it's brilliant, is that we get to know Clementine as as her true real version of herself very little throughout the movie. Like, um, we are largely told about Clementine through Joel's perspective and through him deleting their memories together. And so even in the purest forms of when we see Clementine, it's still muddled a little bit of through Joel's perspective, you know? And there is a clear difference between the Clementine in his memory and the Clementine that's like for real. You know, there it is a little bit of a romantic or like a romanticized version, you know. So the feminist perspective that I have is um I feel like this dynamic is the at large heteronormative romantic struggle. She's an emotional caretaker that rejects that role. And I've noticed myself do this in like basically every relationship that I've ever been in as well, of like taking on the emotional caretaker role, but then resenting my partner that I took it on. And like, but I also have been socially conditioned to believe that that is like my role as a woman in a relationship. And so it's really hard for me not to automatically just take that role on of like emotional caretaker, of like just being such a, I don't want to say like fake ass bitch, but like I have been socially conditioned by ghosts of boyfriends past, you know, to live up to like this literal never achievable expectation as it relates to like being a perfect housewife, being a perfect, like just very unrealistic expectations, you know? And so like, because you're seen as a concept, you're not seen as like a real human person with human feelings. You're like just supposed to bend and twist to the emotional and like physical needs and wants of a man, you know? And like they're arbitrary and ever changing, you know? Like it's just like crazy. This sort of relationship dynamic is so triggering. Like watching the movie is, it's so good. It's so heartwarming, and like the end note is like love is worth it in the end or whatever. But like the journey is just like, oh my god, you know, like it's a lot. So she doesn't want to be the solution for a man's sense of loneliness or emptiness. And then I also wrote she wants agency, but for much of the movie, nothing more than she's nothing more than a memory. Like the whole movie is like her wanting her own agency. And so that's why I just think it's so brilliant that like for much of the movie she's I'm so sorry, Bubby. She doesn't even get to be her own person outside of Joel's memory. It's just fucked up. Um, in my notes, I don't even talk about the affair shit. So go watch the movie. It's so good. The episode's about to be long as fuck. um, so next we're gonna start talking about Joel. So Joel is. So we were just talking about Kate Winslet or Clementine, and she's like this big bubbly personality, right? I don't know if you could tell based on the description of her, but she is. And Joel is basically the exact fucking opposite. And he's like quiet and neurotic and self-contained. He's afraid of confrontation, and he keeps a journal but struggles to speak about his feelings. Like, and I totally get that. Like, I'm much better written than I am spoken. If like if I'm upset with you, it's really really hard for me to talk about how upset I am, because if I like talk about it, I'll probably be mean, and I'm not willing to communicate that way. Um, However, if you give me like some time, and then like I can write down my feelings, I'm very good at being written, and then like I can read it to you and we can like have a conversation that way. But like I struggle to verbalize. So I totally get Joel in this. And then routine is a big part of his life. And then in my notes, I also wrote, he's not terrible, but he's also not great. He mentions early in the movie that he's the nicest guy she's ever been with. And that pissed me off because Clementine acts like someone who's clearly been like abused, whether it be like parental abuse, whether it be ex partner abuse. But like Clementine acts as somebody who has at least witnessed abuse. And so this idea that like a man pats himself on the back for being the least shitty of the shitty men that she's encountered thus far is just such an interesting, like, it was brilliant to either Jim Carrey if he improved it, or the director if that was or whoever, the screenwriter or whatever. It's brilliant. um but it is, I've recently been seeing like this dialogue as it relates to like Diddy about like how men rely on other shitty, or like men being shittier than them, so it makes them look better. And I guess I had never really thought that there could be merit to that, but like I don't know, it's seeming more and more so, and I hate to be like such a man eater ass bitch about it, but like that is sort of how it feels. Um so I don't know, that line itself really just like pissed me off. He's emotionally unavailable, so you're empathetic for him, but many of his relationship problems stem from his unwillingness to be vulnerable, won't engage, and like refuses to speak about like the things that he wants and needs out of his relationship, you know. Um and like my feminist take about it is like he is like the postmodern emotionally repressed man, like he is basically every man that I know. Period. And the tea is like it's not necessarily their fault. I wrote in my notes like I just don't think that they were ever taught how to process their emotions. I don't think men are taught how to process emotions. And like, because I, for real, when I talk to straight men, like I'm like sort of gentle. I feel like I'm damn near like gentle parenting, like, period. I guess that's the end of the sentence, actually. I just feel like I'm gentle parenting. Um, and so, like, in my notes, I also wrote he's very scared of emotional intimacy. He retreats when Clementine expresses emotion, although she does so ineffectively. She is sort of a cunt, right? Like she does, her delivery isn't the best, but she's trying. And I think the tea is like she's trying. And what, even when she tries to be the most level-headed about her feelings that she can be, he still just shuts down. So it doesn't matter. The tea is like it doesn't matter how she communicates. No matter what, he is going to be emotionally unavailable about it. He engages with her as a cure for his loneliness, opposed to a real, true person. He never truly even tries to communicate his needs or wants with her. This is a barrier to real, true intimacy. So, like, that's something I'm dealing with a lot in therapy right now. I've been like, I don't know how much I've been talking for a lot of time, but I've been making a lot of breakthroughs lately. We've been talking about that sort of week after week of like I've been unpacking my religious trauma, and then I've been unpacking like my attachment issues, and now that I'm aware of them, I'm like, okay, I need to unpack this, and I need to figure out how I can date in a way that I makes me securely attached and not anxiously attached, and not like literally afraid to eat. Like I need to figure out how to regulate my nervous system um as it relates to vulnerability. Like the idea that somebody can reject me, the idea that I'm vulnerable to rejection is so scary to me that I can't eat dog. Like, what are we talking about? It's embarrassing, you know? And true intimacy is like loving yourself enough to know that it's not personal, even if it's not you, you know? He wants love, but he isn't willing or is terrified of what it requires. Because love requires openness. Love requires you to like try, you know. Throughout the memory deletion process, he realizes how his passive passivity was a I be just writing words, dog. And I know that I don't know how to say that shit. I know it's a word, but I know that I knew that I didn't know how to say it. Was a part of their relationship falling apart. As he relives good memories, he realizes how much he needs and values that emotional pain. Because, like, emotional pain is how you grow, dude. Like, the reason why, not the only reason, I have issues also, but like, I'm pretty open to all sorts of love always, whether that just be like a passing interaction, whether that be like we sit down and I talk to a stranger for fucking 4 hours and I never talk to them again. Like those interactions are so important to me. And and they'll never not be. I don't know, the more you're open to accepting the interactions, no matter what they may lead to, the happier you'll be. And it is so hard, and I'm still learning every fucking day, but I think it's worth it, truthfully. That's just me. Hey, that's just me. um oh, so my notes also in here, I have written: the whole movie is him realizing Clementine is not a fantasy or a solution. That's a whole my notes say, my notes say that's a whole ass woman who asked more of him than he was ever willing to give. And that's I think that's the truth. She clearly she wanted a serious relationship with this man, and she just like he wanted her to just like be around always. And I, like, as somebody who is anxiously attached, I also am like want to always be around my like, it sucks, I don't want to be like that. but I have fucking issues and I'm working through them. But like I get that though. Um and then for masculinity, I have modern masculinity and then I have a couple bullet points. I have confuses silence with strength, fears emotional messiness, and idealizes women while fearing real intimacy. Yeah, I feel like a lot of straight men, and not that it's just straight men, but I feel like a lot of straight men like don't even actually understand like women at all. Similarly, you know how like inherently all black people understand the white experience because like they're so ingrained in like and have to be engulfed in white culture that like it swallows you, so you they like you have to know about it. That's how it is with being a woman. Like we know how men think because like this is patriarchal society, and so like we are in a man's world, and so like we are forced to know what men do and think and whatever. But like men don't understand women, not even a little bit, you know. So the arc represents need for men to unlearn emotional detachment. So Joel's arc is what I meant by that. Engage in your own pain, opposed to outsourcing their emotional labor to women. I don't really want to expand on that. I think that one's self-explanatory. Don't use women as your like emotional punching bag. I think that would be really positive for the world, you know. So, the main themes. My main theme, I'm actually really tired, so I'm not gonna expand. I have like a whole other two notes, like 2 pages of notes that I could expand on. So I'm just gonna do some like big, big themes, and I'll just leave them with you to ponder on your own. Go watch Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind if you haven't already. But um my main theme is love meaningful because of its pain and not in spite of it. And one of the big quotes of the movie is Joel and Clementine, after erasing each other, still find each other again, and they decide to date again, which is just so, some connections are just meant to be. It's one of my notes too. I don't know if you can see it, but yeah. And then catharsis is required. Like your feelings, your grieving processes, your everything that you need to feel in order to feel okay about moving forward, whether it be with that person or not. That you have to feel that stuff, because if you don't feel that stuff, it's just gonna eat at you forever. Take it from me. Take it from me. It's gonna eat at you, dog. And you don't deserve that. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for how you treated somebody else. Forgive yourself for how somebody, forgive them for how they treated you, even if they didn't apologize. Even if they didn't apologize. They may never. They probably will never. Doesn't matter. It's over. That love isn't wasted. And feel all that pain. Okay? I'm exhausted. In theory, I should still practice for my presentation tomorrow. So I'm gonna go see if I can log into that real quick, make sure everything's set up the way that I want it to be, and I will catch you for tomorrow's topic. Okay, it's just a lot. It's a lot to contemplate. So we'll talk about the album next week, which will be tomorrow for me. I'm exhausted already, but I love you guys very much. Thank you for being with me. Probably living it up on my little trip right now. Actually, when this episode releases, I will probably be on a plane for like 35 hours. So, all right. Love y'all. Love y'all bad. Bye. Drink some water. Love you. Bye.